Shabbat Shalom. The General Assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America met this week in Chicago. There were 1,200 attendees who were party to many interesting conversations about the current state of American Jewry and its future. One panel focused on Jewish engagement. Is it in decline or on the rise? Historian Jack Wertheimer of the Jewish Theological Seminary, 3 miles to our north, presented his assessment of Jewish population data. He says, "We are finding all kinds of significant declines in the number of Jews who are participating in Jewish life, the numbers of Jews who are raising their children as Jews, decline in synagogue membership, decline in the number of donors to federations and to other Jewish organizations. What he worries about is that we're really not prepared to deal with what we may be facing in a very short period of time, a far smaller population of Jews who are engaged in Jewish life." Now, contrast this perspective with that of Rabbi Noah Farkas, CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles. That federation conducted its own scan of the community they serve. Rabbi Farkas summarized those findings this way: "What we found is that by adopting a different lens, by adopting a different way of looking at Jewish life, the future actually looks incredibly bright. If you track what Jews do, not how they affiliate, not what institutions they're a part of, we have found in nearly every single category, Jews in their 40s and younger do more Jewish than Jews in their 50s and older. And that is true for Shabbat, that is true for Jewish text, sacred text, that's true for Jewish media. Actually, they have Israel on their mind more." Two very different perspectives. And I'm not sure who's right. Is the glass half full or half empty? But I do know one thing. Professor Jack Wertheimer is right when he questions whether the quality of engagement that was captured by the Los Angeles study is sufficiently deep to lead to Jewish literacy and knowledgeable Jews. I'm certain that there is no substitute for education. There is nothing that takes the place of the kind of learning that leads one to take ownership of Jewish texts and Jewish heritage. Clicks, likes, emojis are no substitute for being in a classroom, for poring over material, and for the self-reflection that enables one to grow as a learner. Of course, we all know this debate at the GA in Chicago wasn't the only one that took place in the Jewish world this week. And Wertheimer's wasn't the only prophecy of doom. Following the elections in Israel on Tuesday, where 4.8 million Jews, Muslims, Christians, Druze, and others exercised their right to select their leaders, my email began to fill with opinion pieces from American Jewish thinkers claiming catastrophe is at hand. And the result will be liberal American Jewry dissociating themselves from Israel. See, Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party won the greatest number of seats for the 25th Knesset. However, without a majority of seats, he needs 29 more for that. Netanyahu will need to cobble together a coalition of other parties in order to govern. It is very possible that the government he forms will include members of Knesset, some becoming cabinet ministers, who preach intolerance and hatred. If the critique I shared, claiming catastrophe is in store, is intended for Bibi's ears, then I agree with it. He should be warned of the dangers of forming a ruling coalition with extremists, racists, and those who don't see a place in Israeli society for liberal Judaism. However, if this warning is aimed at an American Jewish audience, I take issue with it. The American Jewish community does not benefit by receiving permission from its leadership to abandon Israel. We grow from leaders who say, deepen your connection. Those who excuse walking away from Israel because of one set of election results are telling us to give up our stake in the future of the Jewish people. 50% of world Jewry live in Israel. If we don't believe our bond is unbreakable, we risk forgoing our part in the continuity of our people. What troubles me most about this excuse to write off Israel is that it conflates Israeli politics with Israeli society as a whole. That's a strange leap in logic, encouraging us to dissociate from a society because of an election result, especially when we in the United States are about to cast our own votes in the midterm elections. As voting adults, we all recognize that sometimes the election results align with our preferences, and sometimes they don't. We don't abandon the US when our party isn't in leadership. If anything, we double down. We contribute financially. We volunteer our time. And we organize to champion our values. If the Israeli coalition government that forms does not align with your values, invest. Don't divest. So what does Israeli society have to offer that's separate from the political sphere? Too much to list, but let me tempt you to explore and connect with the real Israel by sharing just a few of some of my favorite recent happenings around the country. This election cycle, the Tali education system, which provides pluralistic in-school Jewish studies programming to 65,000 children in highly diverse communities throughout Israel, making it the most extensive system of liberal Jewish schooling in the world, produced educational resources for children and their families, framing the act of voting in a Jewish values context. Think of the gift that 12th graders on the cusp of military service were given by engaging in the philosophical and theological debate over whether we have free will or if our actions in life are predestined. This is the kind of thinking we cherish in our young adults, the kind of thinking that stretches the mind and prepares them to be the leaders of tomorrow. And they are doing it in a Jewish context. While we're focused on education, you probably know that Israel is #1 in the world for unicorns per capita. That is, tech startups valued at over $1 billion. The question that usually follows that statement is, how did that happen? What are the ingredients in Israeli society to yield this result? Well, as of this week, we have one more data point to help arrive at that answer. Of the top 100 undergraduate programs in the world for producing the most venture capital-backed entrepreneurs, Israeli universities took 5 of the top 50 spots, including 1 in the top 10. Something is going very right with Israeli higher education, which is quite often a melting pot of the varied sectors of Israeli society. And during this year's war in which Russia invaded Ukraine, over 31,000 refugees from both countries made Aliyah to Israel. Aliyah is largely managed by government systems. However, these initiatives only go so far in providing for all immigrant needs. In a country in which most Israelis can retell their family refugee story, it is this deep empathy which has propelled the established, veteran citizens of Israel to embrace and care for these new immigrants. Just look on any Israeli Facebook group page, and you will find countless opportunities taking place throughout Israel to provide for the needs of these Olim, Israel's newest citizens. Yes, indeed, Israel is flawed in many ways, deeply troubling ways, but I am not prepared to abandon it, and neither should you. So I ask you to heed Jack Wertheimer's warning about the risk of fleeting and episodic engagement with Jewish content, and respond by jumping in, studying, learning, and developing your understanding of Israel's complexities. You can start this evening at our Israel-focused conversation tonight at the Oneg. Then return on Sunday at 2 o'clock, when we will honor, study, and discuss the legacy of Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin with guest presenter Rabbi Michael Miller. Delve into your connection to Israel in our 3-session course for teens and their parents, entitled Why Israel?, beginning this Monday evening. And join Rabbi Hirsch and Rabbi Rifkin on our congregational trip to Israel this winter and experience Israel in its glory and all of its complexity for yourself. 75 years. That's how old Israel turns on Yom HaAtzmaut. It's a significant number. We read this week in Parashat Lech Lecha that Abraham is 75 years old when God reveals that his descendants will be as numerous as there are stars in the sky, and they will inherit the land of Canaan. Every story we tell about our forefather Abraham, including him becoming a father himself, happens only after he turns 75. At 75, according to the Torah, your best years still lie ahead. If it's true for Abraham, let it also be true for Israel. Shabbat Shalom.